The Human Adventure. The Columbia Broadcasting System, in collaboration with the University of Chicago, presents The Human Adventure. The 14th of July is Bastille Day, national French holiday, in celebration of the triumph of democracy. We do not know how that day is being celebrated in France at this moment, but The Human Adventure celebrates it by bringing you the true story of the Marquis de La Fayette of France and the role he played in America's fight for liberty.
This series of broadcasts represents the work of universities. We bring you the exclusive accounts of research in all fields of knowledge. A university's job is to learn, and you and all mankind may benefit from its learning. The universities are your investment in a better life.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
1776. Shots heard round the world. The boom of the cannon of independence echoes and re-echoes in every hamlet and pioneer America, every capital of Europe. All over the world, the call to arms is heard. In the colonies, farmers leave the tilled and unseeded soil. Weavers leave their looms. On the continent across the sea, the soldier of fortune, the gentleman, the general, the aristocrat, leaves the gay courts of Europe to fight for liberty in America.
Count Pulaski of Poland.
Baron von Steuben of Prussia.
The Marquis de La Fayette of France.
The name Lafayette, even to this day, revered in the hearts of Americans. Lafayette, the boy aristocrat, who at the age of 19 came from the purple plush courts of aristocratic France to fight a revolution in America.
But, my dear Marquis, you have promised me this dance. Surely you will not sit here and write all evening, not at the Queen's ball. Aha, I know. A letter to another lady, eh?
Yes, to my wife in the country.
Oh, how provincial.
Madame, I did not think you would understand.
Ah, so?
1,000 pardons. I do not mean to be rude. I am writing a farewell note to Adrienne.
Oh.
I leave for America tomorrow.
But our dance.
You will excuse me, but I am weary of dancing.
The youthful Marquis de Lafayette secretly leaves royalist France to fight for a republic in America, to spend $1 million to help defeat a monarchy, to fight for liberty of the individual against the dictates of a king. Such is the legend of Lafayette which schoolboys were once taught. But the historians of our universities delve into manuscripts and old letters not to uncover legends, but to interpret facts that will lead to the truth. Professor Louis Gottschalk of the University of Chicago is one of the foremost scholars in the world on the life and times of Lafayette. Professor Gottschalk, in writing of Lafayette, says,
Lafayette came to America under good auspices. It was Benjamin Franklin who urged Washington to cultivate his friendship. It was Washington who encouraged him to love America. He came to America seeking a grand adventure, the opening of a new avenue to glory. Slowly, he became a champion of liberty. But contrary to popular misconceptions, it was not because he was already a champion of liberty that he espoused the American cause. His initial motives for his bold departure to the New World are found in an increasing desire to achieve glory and a traditional hatred of the English. I've tried to discover how Lafayette, a young man of 19, rich, aristocratic of French birth, proud of his ancestry, became in his later years the outstanding liberal of his day.
June 1777. Lafayette arrives in America. August 1777. Washington reviews his troops at Germantown, Pennsylvania.
Well, sir, what do you think of our army?
General Washington, in all my campaigns, I've never seen 11,000 men so badly armed and still more badly clothed. They don't even dress their lines properly.
Well, this army may not know how to march, but I think they know how to fight.
General Washington.
Yes?
Beg pardon, sir, but there's a young man waiting to see you in your quarters.
Who is it?
The Marquis de La Fayette, Your Excellency.
Thank you. Sir, may I suggest that you offer your opinions of our army to Congress? Perhaps they will send a tailor to mend the soldiers' clothes. Good day, sir. Marquis de La Fayette?
The same, Your Excellency.
You are welcome to my quarters.
Thank you, General.
Will you be seated? There, on the cot.
Un plaisir.
I have some letters here about you, sir. One is from my friend Ben Franklin. He writes about your wife. She is well, and your child is soon to arrive.
Pray God it be a boy. You see, I already have one girl.
And Franklin goes on to say that your wife is a beautiful woman. That is to say, he hopes that for her sake I afford you an opportunity to distinguish yourself, but at the same time not to permit you to hazard your life.
If you'll pardon my saying so, sir, I may be only 19 years old, but I was not bred from a line of generals that died in bed.
Yes, to be sure.
You think I am too young to command a division?
Believe me, sir, there are too many men in our army who have lost sight of the cause and seek only position.
I came to America to serve liberty, not to seek position. But I could serve that cause best if you would permit me to command a division at the front and not sit in the rear with the generals that play whist.
Well, Congress has appointed you a volunteer aide on my staff with the rank of Major General. Perhaps you will learn to play whist after all.
I probably will lose my silk breeches.
Some of my generals play cards less often than they indulge in intrigue. I urge you as a father and a friend to be cautious. Tomorrow morning, I have called a council of war. You will meet my staff, including an adopted countryman of yours, Conway. Do not gamble with Conway.
My only wish is to serve you, Your Excellency.
Splendid. Perhaps you would like to examine this plan of operation.
Oh, please.
This is the city of Philadelphia. I have learned that the British General Howe plans a surprise attack in an effort to take that city. His armies will come up from here, this pinpoint, the town of Christiana. We will retreat, since they outnumber us 2-1, and take up positions on the high ground on the east bank of Brandywine Creek, which is this line on the map.
And when do we attack?
Patience.
I understand. Running very fast is not always the best way of arriving soon.
September 11th, 1777. The Battle of Brandywine. Lafayette engages in his first skirmish in the Revolutionary War. Here is an account of Lafayette's part in the battle reconstructed from Professor Gottschalk's studies and the effect this experience was to have on the relationship between Lafayette and Washington.
Please, General Washington, may I have your permission to join Conway's brigade? Many of my countrymen are there.
As you wish, but be careful.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Monsieur le Marquis,
Yes, Conway.
our left and right wings are falling back too fast. Oh, these fellows were only European soldiers.
What's wrong with them?
They're not used to charging with fixed bayonets.
But they must have. Advance, Tupelo! Get on with you! Here, fix that bayonet.
We'll be butchered.
Advance, I say! Fix bayonets and advance! Yes, Commander. Help me off my horse.
Oui, monsieur le Marquis. Ah.
Thank you, Jeanette.
It's burning! Down! Down, I say!
Lafayette, you've been hit. Only in the leg. Here, Jeanette. Help me onto my horse, will you?
Sullivan.
Yes, General Washington.
Call retreat. Generals Greene and Wheaton will cover you.
Lafayette has been wounded.
Tell Dr. Cochran to take care of him. I want him treated as my own son.
Sound retreat!
That evening, after the battle, in a tavern in Chester, General Washington visits the wounded Lafayette.
How quiet it is.
Always after a battle.
Is it night yet, General?
Yes. The men are coming home. Some of them.
We've lost?
Lafayette, you've been a very foolish lad. A single battle does not decide the fate of a cause, or does a single retreat mean its loss.
You've been very kind to save my life. The life of a foolish lad. If I could but speak your tongue, perhaps I could say it better.
You've been very brave. But you're tired and should not talk.
Yes. I am tired. But I should like to write a letter to my wife.
I shall send someone to help you. Good night.
Good night, mon général. I begin, dear heart, by informing you that I am very well, because I want to end by telling you that we fought today, in good earnest, and we were not the stronger, but I am the wiser. I was slightly wounded in the leg, but, dear heart, do not be worried. It is nothing but a flesh wound. General Washington saved my life today. He is a man really made for this revolution, which could not succeed without him. Every day my admiration for the beauty of his character and his soul grows greater. His name will be revered in all ages by every lover of liberty and of mankind. My love to you and our daughter, or should I say, our children.
And so the Marquis de Lafayette, French nobleman, shed his first blood in an American revolution devoted to a republican ideal. Later, he was to join the forces of republican government in his own country in the French Revolution. How did this young aristocrat become in his later years the outstanding liberal of his day? Professor Gottschalk hunted in libraries, public archives, and private collections for the original letters of Lafayette. A collection of the Lafayette family records was brought for him by the University of Chicago. One day, in examining them with his assistant, Gottschalk made an interesting discovery.
This is strange. Now, here's a letter from Lafayette's lawyer to the manager of Lafayette's estate. Quote, Louis XVI has just freed the serfs in the royal lands and has invited the landlords of France to free theirs. The Marquis de Lafayette will wish to follow his example and asks me how many serfs he has on his estate. Will you please tell me how many there are at Chavignac?
I don't see what's strange in that.
Lafayette wasn't a liberal when his lawyer wrote that letter.
How do you figure that out?
How do you suppose a real liberal would have to ask his lawyer whether he had any serfs on his estate? He'd certainly know himself, wouldn't he? I'm afraid Lafayette was just like most French noblemen of that time, an absentee landlord.
I see what you mean. But if he wasn't a liberal to start with, what set him off?
Mainly his admiration for Washington and his sentimental interest in America. But the friendship between Washington and Lafayette did not develop without difficulty. Many of Washington's opponents in the army were anxious to make use of the young Frenchman's popularity to further their own ends. One of these was General Conway.
winter of 1777. Lafayette meets Conway at a tavern.
Good evening, Marquis.
Bonsoir, Conway. Nice fire, isn't it?
It is pleasant here. Makes one think of home.
You mean France?
Yes. I was born in Ireland, but I've lived most of my life in France. Have you ever thought of going home?
Yes. It would be nice to be there.
It'd be nicer to go home with a citation and honors.
What do you mean?
I found an opportunity to distinguish ourselves, but I need your help.
What is your plan?
It's a plan to defeat Britain, where she can be defeated. Strike at her lifeline, her empire, India, the West Indies. Perhaps Canada, if we can do no better.
I have sometimes thought of that myself.
The war here is hopeless. Even some members of Congress approve my plan. As a fellow Frenchman, I know I can trust you, Lafayette. And I know you hate Britain as I do.
But to strike at the Indies, that's hard. We have no ships.
Yes, but with your influence with France, we could get them. With your influence with the American Congress, you could get money. Then we raise a picked crew in the French West Indies and attack British shipping engaged in China trade.
But if we fail?
Well, we have nothing to lose. There's nothing formal about the plan. It'll only be said it was nothing more than a foolish attempt by an American privateer.
And if we succeed?
Then we are honored men. But more important, France will come out openly on the side of America.
Conway, I think I am with you.
No, Lafayette. It is I who am your soldier.
And so Lafayette was offered a part in the most bitter military intrigue of the Revolutionary War, an intrigue designed to undermine Washington's leadership. Professor Gottschalk continues.
Nobody knows how far Lafayette had committed himself before he discovered that Conway's scheme was intended to discredit Washington. The West Indies scheme was dropped for a long time. Conway kept after Lafayette. How about the invasion of Canada and other British possessions? This idea appealed to Lafayette. Conway's friend in Congress, in order to discredit Washington, put 3 foreigners in charge of an expedition against Canada. They were Lafayette, de Kalb, and Conway. If they captured Canada, Washington would be disgraced because he had consistently opposed such an expedition. Lafayette arrived on February 17, 1778, in Albany, and there met Conway.
I've tried to prepare all the regiments for you, Monsieur le Marquis. Now, if we had 2,500 men, we could invade Canada in a few days. But things are not going right.
How many men have we, Conway?
Well, we've...
How many men have we, Conway?
About 1,000.
You promised there would be 2,500. Call the quartermaster.
Now, just a moment. Let me explain to you. Did you expect me
Call
to...
the quartermaster.
I am your soldier. Quartermaster.
Yes, sir.
How are these men equipped?
For what, sir?
Have you not informed the staff of our expedition?
Yes, but Marquis...
Is there enough food for 1,000 men?
No, sir.
Enough clothing, munitions, sleds, snowshoes?
I'm sorry, sir. No money came from Congress.
That will be all.
Yes, sir. Good day, sir.
Conway, I think you have deceived me. It is clear that you wish to have me and the Kalb recalled so that you may command here.
Lafayette was humiliated and in despair because of the blunders and treachery he had encountered upon this expedition, which was soon abandoned by order of Congress. For a time, he contemplated going back home to France, but such an act he feared would be a reflection on his friend Washington. After months of fuming, he came to General Washington at Valley Forge.
General, permit me to confess. I have been foolish indeed. For a moment, I thought republics and democracy were not for me. Only a few weeks ago, I was going to go home to France.
I'm happy you decided to stay.
But I have been humiliated.
Sit down, Monsieur le Marquis.
Thank you.
Tell me, what troubled you?
Oh, what will my friends and family back in France say when they hear of this magnificent conquest of Canada?
Censure of the world will not fall upon you for that. My dear Marquis, it is no disadvantage to you. You still have the good opinion and confidence of myself and Congress. You magnify a single setback out of all proportions. Your character stands as fair as it ever did, and no new enterprise is necessary to wipe off this imaginary stain.
Thank you, General, for your confidence. I used to be interested only in humiliating England and winning glory. But if you fail, General, I shall suffer. You are my best friend. I never knew my father, and I do not believe I could have loved my father more. But I have made a fool of myself. I let Conway deceive me. General Washington has no enemies, except those who are enemies to his country.
What do you mean?
General, you are the only commander-in-chief.
Professor Gottschalk, in concluding his study of the Marquis de Lafayette, says,
Lafayette's American experiences afforded him an opportunity to love and keep before him as an ideal his great friend Washington. That feeling proved to be the most important step in the creation of the great liberal that Lafayette was to become. That was the meaning of his American triumph. For many years, Lafayette continued his relations and correspondence with his American friends. These letters are still to be found in the library of the University of Pennsylvania and the American Philosophical Society. When in later years Lafayette's wife again gave birth to a girl, he wrote to the 80-year-old Franklin.
I have the pleasure to inform you that a daughter has been born to me, and I have named her Virginia, after one of your states. And though she was but 7 months advanced, she will soon grow to perfect health. This reminds me of our noble revolution, into which we were forced sooner than it ought to have been begun. But our strength came on very fast. And upon the whole, I think we did at least as well as any other people.
To this letter, Franklin, on the same day, replied,
Dear sir, I continue to suffer from this cruel gout, but in the midst of my pain, this news of Madame de Lafayette's safe delivery and your acquisition of a daughter gives me pleasure. In naming your children, I think you do well by naming them after our states. I hope you and Madame Lafayette will go through the 13. And while you are proceeding, I hope our states will, well, some of them, new name themselves. Miss Virginia, Miss Carolina, and Miss Georgiana will sound prettily enough for the girls. But Massachusetts and Connecticut are too harsh even for boys unless they be savages. God bless you. Your affectionate friend and servant, B. Franklin.
A university is the only institution in modern society whose exclusive job it is to learn. To learn the true story of men and their times, that history might be accurate. To learn the cause and nature of disease, that medicine might be effective. To learn the nature of matter and the construction of elements, that physics and chemistry might further contribute to the comfort of man. Universities are storehouses of knowledge. Without them, there would be no science. No refuge in a clashing world where men of intellect and devotion to learning might pursue truth and knowledge and fact unhurriedly, undisturbed, that you and your children may have a fuller life and make this world a better place in which to live. The universities are your investment in a better life. You are the beneficiaries in the human adventure.
Next week, The Human Adventure tells the exciting story of the Stratoliner, the new giant four-motored airplane that rides the path of sunlight across the nation. Listen next week for the story of university scientists who led in this conquest of the upper air. The Human Adventure is presented each week at the same time in the interest of learning over a coast-to-coast network by the University of Chicago in collaboration with the Columbia Broadcasting System.